What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today it's all about suppressors. We have a rugged Obsidian 9mm suppressor here. We're going to go ahead and do some testing with it as far as sound, what you could expect to get out of a suppressor if you guys decide to go pick one of these up. We're going to do a little bit of testing, and I've drawn a diagram here, super scientific. So the range is here. We're going to have a microphone up by the front target, and then I'm going to be standing about 25 feet back with another microphone. And then we have another microphone out 10 feet to my right. So obviously I only have two microphones at one given time. So we're gonna overlay these and we'll write down at the bottom of the screen where you're hearing the sound from. So it'll be the same visual, and we'll just move the microphone for all three times. So we're gonna start out with 115 grain Full Metal Jacket unsuppressed, so you guys have something to compare it with. And then we'll go ahead and throw the suppressor on and do 115 grain, and then we'll do 147 grain subs, and you'll be able to hear the difference in that. And if we can, we'll throw in something from a movie or something so you guys can kind of see the difference, compare it Hollywood versus reality. I think you guys won't be shocked to find out that Hollywood is obviously fake as far as suppressors go. They're not whisper quiet. You're not taking out the bad guy in a room and no one else is hearing it in the entire house. However, it does make for a more pleasurable shooting experience, especially for newer shooters or kids. You're getting them out to the range. You don't want them to be startled so much. Shooting suppressed is so enjoyable. And we'll get some close-up shots of the gun cycling unsuppressed versus suppressed. And you'll see it's just a much more pleasant experience. You know, you can shoot without your ears on and just enjoy yourself, kind of take your time. And it's really fun. So we're gonna go ahead and get this set up. We'll get the camera down range, and we'll see you in just a second. All right, first up, we're gonna go ahead and shoot with the microphone right here on my hat. So we're not hitting any steel, so you're just gonna hear some dirt if you do hear it, if it picks it up. So just pay attention to the gunshot, the recoil of the gun, and see what that looks like. First up. All right, we'll go ahead and move the microphone and do 3 more shots. Microphone is at the target. And now the microphone is 10 feet off my right shoulder. All right, now we did all 3 locations, Full Metal Jacket unsuppressed. We're gonna start back off with the microphone on the hat with the suppressor. Now remember, suppressors have a first round crack, so the first shot will be significantly louder than even the second shot. That's because the gas fills up in the suppressor after the first shot. So we'll go ahead and do 3 shots from here, and then we'll go ahead and move the mic. All right, we'll go ahead and throw the mic downrange. Microphone is down at the target. Microphone is off to my right. All right, guys, so as you can tell, it's significantly quieter. I watched some of the footage again, and even that first round crack was almost indistinguishable. That just speaks to the quality of the suppressor and the type of ammunition that I'm shooting. So now, to take it a step further, I'm gonna step back another 25 feet, and we're gonna leave the microphone up at the target. The other measurements will obviously be the same. So we're gonna see what the shot sounds like from about 50 feet away. So we'll go ahead and set that up real quick. All right, this is back at 50 feet, microphone all the way up to the target. All right, guys, I have you set up at about the 25 feet from the steel targets. I'm going to go ahead and start walking back that way and take some shots into the dirt and some onto the steel. So you guys are closer to the target. You can hear what that sounds like and see any kind of difference. So I'll be right back. All right, guys. So that last shot was at 100 yards. So let me know what it sounded like. Let me know what you guys like. All right, guys. So that was a little demonstration of the different kind of sound you're going to hear at different distances. So obviously, hopefully you're never down on that side listening to what a suppressor sounds like. But you can hear the difference from 25 to 50 feet. Obviously, the left and right distance, that would never change if you were only 10 feet away. The massive difference is that crack, that initial crack that you're not going to hear with the suppressor anymore. Now, you can shoot 115 grain through the suppressor. I'm going to do some of that, and you guys will be able to see it's suppressed, but not quite as much as with the subsonic ammunition. So if you ever hear somebody complaining that when they shoot their suppressor, it's not quiet, maybe they're shooting supersonics. So you have to drop below 1,100 feet per second as far as the speed of your ammunition for it to be subsonic, and that's when you're really going to get that quiet, movie quiet shot. So we'll go ahead and load up some 115s. We'll do some shots with that, and then we're probably going to start walking back, and we're going to do some suppressed shots on the steel, and that's when you can really hear a difference because the suppressed shot is so quiet, and then you hear this steel just ting, and the steel is way louder than the gunshot, which isn't something that I really knew until I had a suppressor because I always shoot with my ears on. But now that I got the suppressor, if I'm shooting subs, I'll take the ears off and just shoot, and then you start to hear how loud that steel is. So I guess even that could damage your ears with prolonged exposure. So keep that in mind. Probably always best to play it safe and keep your ears on. So we're going to load up. We'll be right back. All right, we got 10 rounds loaded up. First 5 are 115 grain, so you guys will be able to hear what it sounds like if you just have 115 grain supersonics through the suppressor. And then the second 5 are going to be the subsonic, so you'll be able to see an instant change there in volume. So we'll go ahead and give this a go. So as you can tell, there's a dramatic shift in the recoil, the felt recoil, at least from my end, and then a dramatic shift in the volume and the concussion that's coming out of it. Even with the suppressor, the 115 still has a little bit of a crack to it. Not a crack. It's hard to explain it. It's just a little bit more felt recoil and a little bit more of like a smacking sound, like a thwap or something like that. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's not necessarily a crack. You know what? One more thing I forgot to mention, worth noting if you're going to run a suppressed pistol. So if you're running a suppressed pistol and it has an optic on it, know that after a certain amount of shots, you're not going to be able to see through it. So this gun is fully unloaded, no magazine, nothing in it. So you can see, well, it might be hard for you to tell. You can see how sooted up the glass is on that. And I'll see if I can get it this way so you guys can maybe see the dot. But it is steadily, increasingly getting harder and harder to see through it. Now, not a deal breaker because all you do is just take your finger and go like that. Now, you get a bunch of shit on your finger, but you know, it's crystal clear again now. So something to know, you know, a handful of magazines down, boom, your optic's going to be kind of sooted up, blacked out, a little bit harder to see, especially depending on lighting conditions and stuff like that. Now, that's just with this optic. I am going to put an aim point P2 on here, and we'll see if that glass being totally vertical makes a difference. This glass is actually tilted down a little bit, so with the ejection right here and everything, it could be unique to this firearm with this optic combo, but worth mentioning, so I did. All right, guys, so that kind of wraps up our video there. I just wanted to demonstrate the sound difference the best that I could. I don't have a decibel reader or anything like that, but I wanted to try and give you guys a real-world example of what to expect if you go buy a suppressor. Before I went to go buy a suppressor, this is the type of video that I would have liked to see. Something real, not crazy fancy, but just something to know what kind of sound to expect, because I tell you, you know, they're not cheap, and sometimes you got to wait a while to get them, and I'd be super frustrated if I was expecting a certain level of stealth, so to speak, and you go to shoot it and it's just boom, crack, you know, and you don't have the right ammo, or your suppressor is not going to get it down to the decibel rating that you're anticipating. So it's all about what to expect. So this suppressor I was using is a Rugged Obsidian 9, and this suppressor in particular is modular, so you can actually shorten it. So the decibel readings that we were, not decibel readings, the sound that you guys were hearing was the full-length version. So we can actually shorten this can down, and it's significantly louder. We will have some footage of that at the end of the video, just so you guys can kind of compare and contrast that. But this suppressor is pretty awesome. One thing to note, too, when you buy a pistol suppressor, a Rugged suppressor, the brand, it's going to have a piston already built into the end cap back here. So this piston is a massive spring, and it gets a little messy, but it allows you to shoot on pistols because the barrel of a pistol is going to move. So anything on it with a moving barrel, you have to use this piston. And let me see if I can get it out. It's just a cylinder with a spring around it, and it lets that suppressor move off the barrel a little bit, and that's critical for anything with a moving barrel. If you're going to put it on like a PCC, a rifle, anything with a fixed barrel, then you want to replace this piston with a fixed barrel spacer or a direct thread mount that you can buy from them separately. Some suppressor companies do not even come with this part on the suppressor. You'll buy it and it just comes like this. So you buy it, you wait all that time, and you can't even shoot the damn thing. So that could be a little frustrating too. So do your research on the brand that you guys are looking at, what kind of model you're going to get, and what it comes with. So the other thing that I didn't necessarily know about, not a deal breaker by any means, but you have to grease this piston with white lithium grease is what this manufacturer suggests. So it can get a little messy. You know, you got to now throw some lithium grease in your range bag, but it's not a huge deal. It's just a maintenance thing. It's something to know ahead of time. You don't want to buy it, shoot a bunch of rounds through it, and then have it lock up on you, because is what happens. Let me get this put back on here. The grease just helps lubricate that spring so it can kind of pull off the barrel of the gun there, and that's what gets it to reline back up and lets the gun cycle. If you had a fixed barrel spacer on it with a pistol, it wouldn't let the barrel unlock and cycle because it would have so much more front weight on it. So let me get this back on here. So with it installed, I'm going to pull, and you can see that actually comes off, and you can turn it and it'll click back in. So now it doesn't rotate when you're shooting. That's just me rotating around the knuckles on the end of the piston, but it just pulls straight out there. And when you shoot, the suppressor stays still for just a second, and this barrel comes back, and then the suppressor kind of comes back. So with the Beretta M9A4, it's less noticeable because that barrel's not tilting. The barrel's just tracking back and forth. If you have like a Glock 19 or 17 or pretty much any other semi-automatic pistol, that barrel is going to tilt a little bit, and that piston is what's going to allow that barrel to unlock and tilt up. So that's something to keep in mind. You're going to need lithium grease. Because this one's modular and it separates up at the top, you have to use an anti-seize. Otherwise, you shoot a couple hundred rounds through this, you won't be able to unscrew this. Now, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they'll fucking undo it for you, but that's a pain. So you want anti-seize here They also recommend putting Teflon tape around the end cap and actually on the threads. They also tell you to make sure it's tight every magazine. So there's kind of a lot of rules that maybe people aren't aware of or you haven't heard of. So just know if you're getting into suppressors, you have a little bit of homework on your end to do aside from the paperwork and waiting. You need to make sure that you have the right ammunition. You have, your grease. What type of suppressor? Are you going to need a piston, a direct thread mount? What accessories do you need to work with that? The worst thing in the world would be to wait all that time, get your suppressor, and not be able to use it the day you get it. So keep that in mind next time you're shopping around for a suppressor. If you guys have any questions, hit me up in the comments. Let me know, and I'll try to help you out the best I can. Thank you guys so much. Hit the bell, subscribe, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching my videos. And as always, have a nice day. All right, guys, here real quick. I promised you this is the K version of the suppressor. So the half size, roughly, a little bit more than half size. So this is with subsonics. So you guys be the judge. You let me know which one you like best.